For those listening or watching this on YouTube, I wanted to bring on Stephen mainly because he does B2B podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to be very, very hot topic.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone that I talk about talks about the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
talks about strategy, talks about, is it working? Well, what's your podcast analytics and all this other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be great to have him on. And welcome to the show, Stephen.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm excited to dive in. You know, I know we've been engaging with one another on LinkedIn for quite some time and talked a lot about some future plans together. So excited to talk through, and get on the pod here. I think it's going to be fun.
So what inspired you to become an entrepreneur? Just curious.
Oh, man. I feel like for me, it was like something that I couldn't not do. Like even in college, like if I needed money, go start knocking on doors to, mulch some lawns, mulch some yards. And I think I just naturally gravitated towards, first of all, selling. And then after kind of getting my feet wet in selling, especially in B2B, quickly understood that, I'm selling for somebody and someone's vision I'm selling. And I would much rather be focusing on painting that vision with trusted colleagues and directing the ship with them, as opposed to attaching myself to somebody else's vision. And a little bit of a calculated risk taker as well. So I think it was just, something I always wanted to do. It's in the DNA too. It's been passed down from great grandfather on down. So got to do it. It's the Rosenthal thing to do.
Now, the vision that you're talking about is, and wanting to do pretty much your own vision instead of tackling somebody else's vision. Are you doing that right now with your company?
Yeah. Well, so I think, it's multifaceted. And I think from the outside looking in, it looks like and probably is, honestly. Right now, it's not super focused. So like what you mentioned, the B2B podcasting, quickly I noticed when I moved into selling for organizations that are a little bit less known than like a Fortune 500 that I was selling for previously.
Yeah.
We needed some sort of air cover. We needed brand recognition. We needed to provide some sort of value up front in a sales process, even maybe before we even get onto an intro call, so that, there's some sort of credence and that kind of lays the groundwork for that initial call. So, I started my business as an outsourced sales company for B2B software companies. And my first client, we were struggling with figuring out where the leads were coming from because their marketing was just not too hot. So we then built out Aurra Media as a podcasting, real content generation with the purpose of how do we figure out distribution of that content, LinkedIn, email, even like a Slack channel, how do we build an audience around that for the purpose of lead gen and converting into leads for our outsourced sales customer. So that was kind of our pilot. I wasn't really thinking about building a whole company around that marketing strategy, but it just blew up. It was an awesome opportunity. It really worked out well because it's a great way to engage an audience. And then we built out an arm of the company of the outsourced sales company for B2B podcasting. And my real vision, what I wanted to do from the outset with the outsourced sales was build out a sales and marketing function that I could plug anything into, whether it's buying a business, whether it's starting another business. I have the sales and marketing function built out, and then, go maybe secure clients for that, function outside of my own businesses, but kind of build that out. So that's what Aurra Media became, the marketing side. Software sales as a service, SaaS. That's the outsourced sales and kind of sales development side. And now we're thinking about, now that those two sides are built out, now we're thinking about how do we strategically either build a software business or, go through some sort of acquisition or something like that, that can kind of utilize that infrastructure. So that's the long story, I think, of the vision that I'm hoping to do there, and what I'm hoping to build.
So you're doing like a mixture of marketing and sales services.
Exactly. Like those two businesses right now, we've got, 8 clients that were basically an extension of their company, for marketing and sales and some marketing, some just sales.
Yeah. And who's your ideal client?
I was kind of surprised. I initially just thought it was a software company, because that's what I was coming out of. I was in med device, transitioned to software, started my own company. I was like, hey, software is where it's at. I'm just going to do this for software. Then we put on a cold email campaign for like all CEOs in Denver, and some random mining company was like, hey, yeah, we want a podcast. And I'm like, what? So that was not an ideal client in my mind, but they've been a tremendous client. And then we since then grew in the mining space. We have a number of clients in there. And then we moved into the insurance, but I really think it's B2B communications. Companies that are going to communicate B2B are really kind of our ideal client.
What kind of things do you see? I want to know the deep insights, because you manage all these clients and you don't have to throw names out there for these clients. But what do you see that works when it comes to the podcasting? I think what works, because everyone's like, I want to do podcasting, and then they quit after 3 months.
Yeah. Well, I think podcasting is a means to an end when it comes to our strategy. It's like, we do B2B podcasting, but it's not for the sake of having something on Apple or Spotify. I think it's what we've noticed is, how do we move valuable content into audience creation, into moving the needle in a business or in an organization? Those are the three things that we look at. So it's really creation, distribution, and then moving the needle, actual results. And we don't really take on, there's probably one client I think that we haven't done this for, but all of our clients, we really take on, how do we function through that entire continuum? So we're not like an audio production house. That's not somebody who just needs their audio file, edited. That's not us. We're really looking at, how do we build an audience from that content, which is not a one size fits all. We got to know the business. And then the other piece is that last mile. How are we driving leads from that audience? Or how are we, for our mining customers, how are we driving investors for, that audience, from that audience? Those are really, that's how we're thinking about it.
Now, is there anything that sticks out that, hey, this really works?
LinkedIn,
100%.
All day.
What about Instagram? Instagram, I've heard before that Instagram is good for podcasters, but I don't know if that's true.
Yeah. So this is our, actually, we're launching a client right now. That's our first foray into Instagram and Facebook. So I'm by no means an expert in those two areas. Yeah. One thing that we are leveraging is influencer marketing off of Instagram, which immediately, gets you a good foot in the door. I just am so high on the organic reach of LinkedIn. It's just unfreaking believable. Yeah. And then it's just like, especially in B2B communications, like I mentioned, that's what people are expecting to see on that LinkedIn platform. Right. So it just works out better. I think Instagram, Facebook might work really well. And we're going to find that out probably in the next 6 months, but for B2B, but everything I've seen is a lot B2C. So, I haven't tested it enough, so I stay in my lane. If you've got somebody that is really good at Instagram and Facebook that communicates B2B, we'll hire them.
Yeah. I do have somebody that is a contractor, really good. He does basically Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat ads. Like he's the advertising guy. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I hear. I don't know. I haven't done too much in the ad world either, but that's what I've heard. Ads are really good there. Even you can listen to like really Chris Walker for Facebook ads, his whole split the funnel situation there. I think ads sound like they're pretty legit.
Yeah. I had him on my show. I think it was the last episode on here. So he was saying like, I just turn on Instagram ads and I get 10 leads.
Really?
Like all these other companies are paying thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're getting junk. And I'm like, yep. You got to know what you're doing.
Yep. Yeah. Wow. I would love it to network in with that guy.
Yeah. I'll definitely, I'll send you his info.
Yeah.
Offline.
That sounds good, man.
But the other thing I was going to mention is strategy. Podcast content strategy.
Oh yeah.
Everyone's talking about it. If you don't have a good strategy, you're really behind, or you're not going to get far.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So do you approach each client with a different strategy, or do you kind of apply the template to them and then modify if needed?
So, I mean, I'm a big fan of like the cliche freedom within a framework type situation. So, we have our, 10 page, sometimes it turns into like 15, 20 page kind of implementation guide. That's like a 1 to 2 month implementation for any new client that we bring on for like any sort of content generations, primarily podcasting right now. Very well may be like a metaverse content creator in 3 years, like podcasting is what it is right now, because that's where you can create good, valuable content,
right.
That might not be the case in 3 years. So we'll see, but anyway, we're going through that framework, and the way that we look at that framework is really two primary lanes. One being, what does the market want to hear? What are they hearing now? And are there gaps in what they're hearing, specifically for your domain? Domain meaning like your niche, not your website domain.
Right.
And then the other piece would be, what does like the customer, or what does the company want to communicate? So, and that's a little bit easier, typically in our implementations for them to, spill the beans on all the things that they want to communicate. And then we try to narrow that down and make that contextual with whatever mediums or channels we're going to be responsible for. How do we make, what the market wants to hear and what the company wants to communicate? How do we marry those two things together for a LinkedIn contextually, or for a podcast platform contextually, or for a Slack channel, or for an email newsletter, or a drip campaign, or like a webinar series even. So we're looking at marrying that together. But I think if you don't have the reason why strategy is so important is because if you don't have kind of the foundation, then you really become all things to all people. So you're really nothing to anybody, right. And then it's really hard then to drive the needle for any organizational, either revenue or, audience growth. Just a challenge to do that. So.
Totally. The one thing I was also going to ask is, how do you experiment with, what the market wants to hear? Is it just, let's just talk on these topics, or is it like, what's current events, or you got to throw out some LinkedIn posts out there, right?
Oh yeah. Yep. I mean, so what we are a big fan of feedback loops too. So I think, content creation, like we mentioned, and distribution being that second piece. The distribution, what makes that good is if you have a good feedback loop. So, we had our all hands meeting. We've got, all 7 of our people, or 8 now, I think, of our people hopping on the call, talking about what we're doing for every client. What are we learning? What's the, everything from the mining to the insurance to the personal brand to like the, retail to software industries. That's what we're serving now. And recently NFT, blockchain industry. We just got our first NFT client on. So
nice.
But anyway, so we're looking at learnings across all these, platforms, all these companies, trying to compile those and generate some high level feedback loops, and then some more micro feedback loops for each customer. So let's talk tangibly, so for instance, we put together, this is what we want to do for series 1 for one mining customer. We brought on a director of technology on to get interviewed on 2 different product lines, not to talk about the physical products, but the market, and educate, potential investors around what the market looks like for those 2 products. And we saw just a massive inflection in the podcast, listenership there. We were trying to figure out what that was. We narrowed that down to a single LinkedIn post that just performed super well on the CEO's LinkedIn. And then we built out an entire series strategy for series 2 around, let's define these markets. So that would be an example of the feedback loop, but you got to be listening. You got to be like looking at what's working,
right.
Because sometimes those small little inflection points you can double down on, and built out an entire content series around that,
That's awesome.
Which has been cool. I mean, it was a great, I think, kind of tangible example of what worked there, Yeah.
My other question that I was going to ask you, because that's all marketing activities and marketing research and everything.
Yep.
How do you incorporate the sales part? Because you're really good at this. You're good at the sales part. I've seen your LinkedIn profile. You have sales experience, so I'm curious to know.
I love it. I love doing deals. I love deal making. So But I think the main tenets that I live by, one is abundance, which makes, a big audience. If you're building a big audience, you immediately have an abundant mentality. There's just so many there's so much opportunity in the world that in order to live in fear and scarcity is just, short-sighted, and you're really inside your own head. You got to live in that abundant mindset. That also allows you to be detached from a specific deal. And then when you're detached and you're not desperate to try and get any deals done, you can have good intent. You can be customer focused. And, my team will tell you, like, I just every day talk about, we got to be focused on the customer, do whatever the customer, do right by the customer, even if they're not thinking about it right now, Right. So how do I tie in the, content to distribution to sales? I think it's a lot of it is hard work, so when you're building that audience, it's not just for the sake of building it. You engage with that audience in like a meaningful way, and whether that's LinkedIn DMs, email exchanges, building out a Slack channel or a webinar series for that audience, and just trying to bring as much value to that audience as possible. That's like your primary focus. And then we layer on top of that, like sales development. So we've got either, like the SDR model. It's a lot different when an SDR is hitting up somebody who is listening to your podcast for 18 months and saying like, hey, we're really focused on this topic. We have this, service or this solution that really helps this, issue that we've seen. And then, would you want to talk about that? I mean, that's like 9 times out of 10, they'll take that meeting, Totally. And then you're building pipeline, with your podcast, but it's really with your content and distribution model, but it's sometimes easier to just say, yeah, we're B2B podcasters.
Yeah. It is a beauty. Cause I tend to hesitate too. Cause I'm like, I'm not trying to go for the juggler, but I'm also not trying to be salesy. So part of it's more like, you know what, I'll just have you on my podcast to talk about it. And I see it as an aspect of business networking.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so we're building a relationship, and it's crazy because there's people that I've had, B2B marketers on my podcast that have reached out and said, hey, let's talk about that website redesign.
Oh yeah.
Like, hey,
that's what we're talking about. Believe me, you're still on our radar here. We've got it in the plan for 2022.
I got you, man. I got you. So it's interesting because this is like a true living example right here that we're talking about. Yeah. So it's interesting because they'll have like team meetings and they're like, okay, well, we need a web developer or we need a web designer. And it's like, oh, I just had a podcast interview with Jesus, and he runs a web development agency. Yeah,
exactly.
Let's just give him a call. Or
for the listeners listening in, I mean, I've been on 2 calls with this guy. Most of our interaction has been in the comments section of LinkedIn, and I think seeing you consistently every time I'm on LinkedIn, there's a post from you in my feed, which is, I think, a true testament to your consistency. But the big thing is they're always valuable. So you have a halo effect with me. When I think about needing a web designer, I know that I've listened to your content for like 12 months. So I know that you have the expertise that we're looking for. You have a marketing mind, and then you're layering on top of that, website development, capabilities. So when we think about that, it's like, we're going to go with him, it's just a, matter of timing on when that's going to happen.
That's awesome.
At that point. So
that's awesome. And I appreciate that.
Yeah. That's the selling part,
That's also just what I try to tell people, because they'll come in and they'll be like, hey, so let's talk about podcast analytics. I'm like, throw that crap in the trash. Like, honestly, you're going to quit. You're too focused on numbers. If you want to see how many people download it and it makes you happy and you can have a great rest of your day, then go for it. But at the end of the day, it's a top of mind strategy and it's a long haul game.
Yeah.
So you just said, hey, I've been listening to you like 6-12 months.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're still not even my customer.
Yeah. But
so I'm like,
we're planning on it. It's literally I just was talking with the director of finance here for us, and we've got his name and his quote in our plan, for rolling out marketing for a new company. So
but I'm just saying, like, it just takes time.
Oh yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And consistency,
time, top of mind strategy. It's also a personal branding approach too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one thing that I just really love about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's way better than let's do lead gen.
Yeah.
In a way where we're paying a company to just feed us a ton of junk.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Salespeople hate that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It clogs up your calendar. I think it's, everybody loves a full calendar, or so they say, but if you've got a bunch of junk in there, it's just a clog, and then you can't do anything meaningful.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think, we can double down on your example, or you as an example of how to do, B2B podcasting well. I think, you're engaged with people that are engaged with you as well. And I think that's like a big variable to success in this game as well. You can tell quickly those people that are actually caring about providing value in the market, by their response to anybody else commenting or anybody else, doing any sort of engagement with you. But the other piece I think with that is, I feel like you want to, you want to build that initial network, especially on something like a LinkedIn, because then it's a lot of, word of mouth from there, like you mentioned, that's happening with that secondary network, even if it's, word of mouth in the digital age where, I'm engaging with your posts, and now people that are in my first degree that are super engaged with me are now seeing your stuff. That I see that even as a word of mouth thing, because if I'm engaging, then somebody's going to say, hey, well, Stephen respects this guy's opinion, I want to listen to that person too,
Right.
And vice versa. So I think that's a pretty cool strategy too, to think about.
No, totally. Now let's talk a little bit about crypto. I have a ton of questions for you.
Yeah. All right.
So are you dipping your toes in that? Like,
oh my gosh.
Like you're providing B2B podcasting services in exchange for crypto?
Yeah. Right now. Yep.
Wow. Full throttle,
man. We dove in, I think it was mid-September was the first time. It's been on my mind, something that I've wanted to do. And I was kind of strategizing over the summer around it. And then we went full blown with the project here. So we're
what made you want to do it? I'm curious.
What made me want to?
Yeah.
I mean, I personally, oh man, it's so funny because the people that I work with now, like I've been on such a kick around this, like I can't stop talking about it. Every single meeting it like comes up. So I like, we could be here for like 3 hours. So, but what made me want to do it? I think it's underestimated. In one word, it's underestimated, especially right now, even, I think smart contracts are just huge. I mean, it's like a game changer. I'm thinking about and in conversations with, and this is another, exclusive. I've never talked about this publicly, but I'm in conversations with dropping my own project as well for NFT project for the purpose of the smart contracts and that focus that I kind of laid out for you. Like, how do we build out sales and marketing and then plug companies in? How do I bring a community into the financial opportunities that exist with that focus and that strategy? It's almost like building that audience, building that community. I think, crypto, especially NFTs and smart contracts, it's like a key into, building a culture around what you're doing. And that could be professionally or personally. A lot of people are doing it personally. I'm personally more excited about the professional side of things. So, I'm looking at it as, how can I incorporate people that want to invest in what's happening in the macro with my career? I think NFTs and smart contracts give me the opportunity to do that in a pretty awesome way. So that's kind of my longer term strategy with it. But then, and in conjunction with that is building, disruptive businesses that leverage that new technology, in the industries that I'm, familiar with and that the team is excited about, that we're building with. So,
yeah. And when you mention, again, this is a huge learning curve for me. So when you mention smart contracts, what is that specifically? Because even the listeners that are on this, they're like, what the heck? It just goes over their head.
Yeah. Well, so if you follow I think a great way for somebody to get started with it there, I think it's nftbasics.com. It's either NFT Basic or nftbasics.com. If you follow just at NFT Ignition on Twitter, Danielle, she is just a phenomenal resource for somebody who wants to initially get into learning about this space. But smart contracts, and somebody's going to listen to this and be like, this guy doesn't know what the heck he's talking about, because I'm learning a ton myself.
That's everyone on Twitter. So you're good.
Oh yeah. It's so true, man. I'm learning so much myself because I'm not a technologist. I am a businessman, love deal making. So, and then try and find good people to kind of fill my blind spots and gaps. And one of them, big gap, is technology, and the actual technological part of that. So, but anyway, smart contracts is utility on the blockchain. You can think about any agreement that you have. It's just, instead of, the deed of your house sitting at the local municipality, it's now a contract on the blockchain. That's a smart contract. I think that's like the most simplest term, but I'm sure I can send you some links to link in the show notes here on if you want to go deeper on it,
Yeah. But, no, I think those Twitter suggestions were really good for resources.
Yeah. I mean, Danielle, NFT Ignition, she's a beast, and she's involved in a ton of, she laid it out for me the other day. And it was just such a great, I don't remember exactly what she said because I'm a scatterbrained guy, but it was really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome, because I do think it's the future.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that's where I think it's too new for a lot of people to understand what it is or get their head wrapped around it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was proposed by other crypto, I guess, gaming companies that are in the crypto space, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, I don't know it, too much uncertainty or too much insecurities, because I'm not really in there. So let's do cash for now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I feel that.
That's what we do. And
For the
books,
I feel that.
For everything. Right.
Yeah.
But I also feel like those who jump on it now are going to just benefit huge in like 5-10 years.
Oh man, dude. I mean, it's been unbelievable just researching projects. It's almost like investing, I've been researching.
It's like stocks. You're right.
Oh yeah. But it's been cool because you can really dive into who's behind these projects. It feels a lot like, what people talk about. I'm not an angel investor. I don't have the money for such endeavors, but it feels a lot like that. Like you could go in, do some deep dive on some people who are putting out some pretty cool NFT projects that leverage smart contracts, do a deep dive into what they're doing and what they're trying to do. And, buy one of their, assets that they're dropping on the blockchain known as NFTs. You can buy that and then ride that wave with them. And I've done that. And already it blew my mind. I mean, I was like, I'm going to put in some tests, see how this goes, put, something I could lose into a couple projects, and it became something I can't lose. So I was like, I'm going to divest out of these. So, and then I was like, I'm all in. Like, this is unbelievable. It's a huge opportunity there. And I think there's a big opportunity for software companies that are able to leverage what's happening in that space. Right. I think if you're able to leverage that well now, and think about if you're a software company not thinking about how to leverage blockchain, smart contracts, and NFTs for your customer base, you'll be behind in 5 years for sure. Like it's just going to be a catch-up game. It's kind of like people who wanted to start a blog or people who want to start a podcast. It's kind of catch up now. If you don't have a blog, it's like, what are you doing? If you don't have a podcast, you're kind of in catch-up mode. If you're not thinking about NFTs, now you'll be in catch-up mode in 5 years,
Right. And I think the hardest part is knowing when to cash out.
Yeah.
That's probably the hardest.
It's terrible.
Yeah. Because
I'll give you a story about that just will make your heart sink. For me, it's been terrible.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking about it, whenever you have cash, like that goes towards your salary, people's salaries.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff of the business. Yeah. When we're talking about crypto, we're thinking stocks. So imagine you having a Tesla stock.
Yeah.
Or Apple stock, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's there, it's growing. That's cute.
Yeah.
It looks pretty. I I should use it. Maybe I can't use it. If I cash out now, that would be stupid. Like, so you're like playing that game.
Oh, dude, it's crazy. It's insane. I mean, I think my philosophy is one, like with this space, I am investing for learning. Like a lot of what I'm doing now is for like understanding and being a part of projects that I think will help me understand the space more. And then also in line with that is like, oh man, I could really get behind this person, or I think that there's some opportunity for us to do business in the future. So I want to get in that camp now, on the ground level. Sense. So those are the two ways that I'm investing now. Although there was a time in the summer when it was just like, it was a gold rush. I was playing that flip game for sure, Yeah. My wife and I had just had a baby, so I'm up all night holding the baby. I'm just on my phone flipping NFTs like all night. It was crazy. But to give you for instance, like there was a project I got in for, a modest sum, we'll call it, less than 5,000. And it was much less than 5,000, but 5,000 fails in comparison to what it is now. So I got in less than that then, and I really believed in the project. I think it's a long-term play. And then over the course of 4 months, it grew, my investment grew to tens of thousands. I mean, it was like unreal. Like we'll call it less than 50,000, so at least 10x. I think it was like 12x in 4 months. Then, and I'm working on a few strategic things. So I was like, I need the cash. I'm going to cash out, use that, invest it back in the business. Literally 7 days later, it doubled. Like if I would have waited 7 days, I would have made an extra $70,000. So that's crazy. It's crazy. So the cashing out situation, like you can't, it'll just eat you up.
You just pull it when you need it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the best way to view it.
Exactly. But I think it's really cool. It's a great space to learn about. And if you're in marketing, if you're building communities and building audiences, you really got to look at, I think, the space from that lens. Hop into Discord is like the place, and Twitter, are the two places that all the activity and the audience building is happening. You can hop in there and learn how these people are engaging and building audience. I think it's awesome. Not only that, but they're giving their audience financial upside on what they're doing with their NFT projects, which I think that's what blew my mind. It's like, it's right in line with what we're talking about. They're building valuable content for people, distributing that to build an audience. But then the moving the needle is your audience is directly benefiting from that moving the needle. Like if you drop an NFT project and people are buying in, and then you provide just untold value based off of that project, your entire audience is benefiting from that. Everybody's
I've been seeing that on Twitter a lot, Instagram too.
Yeah.
But Twitter, where here's the roadmap.
Yeah.
Like they're building a ton of hype, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then it's like, this is the community. They're all believing in it. And we're all doing more and more and more and more. And it keeps going up.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the hype, right?
Yeah, I know.
And it's interesting because they'll say, here's the new image. Here's the new coming soon. Here's this. Yeah. It's like little snippets here and there, like teasers.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's true. I think, you got to think about it like for you and I, like we build out plans and roadmaps for our businesses.
Right.
It's the same thing. It's just people are doing it with art and games right now. It's going to be with businesses later. I mean, it's going to be a way to invest in a business. You look at Artifact, RFTKT, I think is the business. Andreessen Horowitz just dropped like $9 million for them to basically build out a business, a merchandising business behind what they're doing there, with their NFT projects. I really think it's like a cool way to potentially, lay out, this is the roadmap for my new marketing company. In order to be a part of that, buy my NFT, and then you raise 9 million, 10 million to start your marketing company, Totally. I think there's a lot of options there. It's exciting.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah.
I think we're out of time.
Oh, I know, dude. I talk way too much. I'm sorry.
No. It's fine. I got another 5 minutes. I just don't know if you have more time or.
Yeah, I got a little more time, but I get so excited about this.
No, I'm very passionate about talking about marketing and sales. Yes. So especially podcasting and LinkedIn. Yeah. I mean, I get asked about that all the time. So I'm like, yes. We're going to do one together.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's cool. Anybody out there, I know you're trying to figure out, especially if you're in marketing, trying to figure out how to build your audience, and in sales, trying to figure out how to build your pipeline, which is just one step away from building an audience. So I think everybody's trying to build that audience. I think there's a lot of great ways to do that, but developing high quality content, whether that's in a blog, podcast, webinar, I don't know, the book, whatever you want to do. And then looking at distribution and getting up with the times around distribution. I think that's the takeaway for the audience in this, at least this episode, is how do you do that well? High intent, provide value,
Right. Yeah. Awesome, Stephen. We're definitely gonna have to do a part 2.
Yeah, well, I'll try not to talk as much. Maybe I'll interview you. How's that?
This was all about you. You can have me next time on your show.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We'll break down what JRM is doing here.
No, this was great. I loved it.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome.
Right, thanks again, man. It's great to talk.
You too.